There is a corner of a yard in rural Vermont that produces more edible food per square foot than the apple orchard across the road. No ladder needed, no pruning crew, no spray schedule, no year of establishment where the tree sits there doing nothing while you wait for it to fruit. The corner is 12 feet wide and 8 feet deep. It holds 4 shrubs, and from May through October it produces continuously, one species handing off to the next as the season advances, so that something is always ripe and something is always coming. The man who planted it is 73 years old. His name is Harold. He is Abenaki, and he told me his grandmother planted the same 4 shrubs in the same configuration in the same corner of a yard, 2 properties down the road when she was a young woman. She never called it a garden. She called it a corner that feeds you. I have spent years now visiting people who grow food the way their grandparents taught them to grow it. I have stood in the Three Sisters gardens. I have walked the orchard edges. I have seen the root cellars and the seed libraries. But what Harold showed me in that corner of his yard stopped me in a way that none of the rest of it had, because what he was describing was not a food system that requires land. It was a food system that requires a corner, a fence line, a strip along a driveway, a patch behind a garage, anywhere that gets 6 hours of sun, anywhere that has soil, and most Americans have that. Most Americans just have no idea what to plant in it. The average American family spends $270 a month on groceries, according to the USDA's 2023 food expenditure data. Fresh fruit alone accounts for roughly $40 of that monthly. Over 10 years, that is $4,800 spent on fresh fruit from a supply chain that picked it before it was ripe, shipped it thousands of miles, and delivered it to a store shelf where it finished ripening under fluorescent light. Harold's 4 shrubs, once established, produce fresh fruit from May through October at zero ongoing cost. The establishment cost for all 4 purchased as bare rootstock from a native plant nursery is between $30 and $80 total. The 10-year return on that investment, measured against grocery store fruit prices, is somewhere in the range of $4,700. If finding knowledge like this matters to you, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. I want to make sure these videos keep reaching the people they are meant for. Now let me show you what Harold showed me. The commercial fruit industry in the United States generates $28 billion annually. It is built around a small number of high-yield, easily transported long shelf-life species: apples, oranges, grapes, strawberries, bananas. None of these are native to North America. All of them require significant inputs to produce commercially: fungicide schedules, irrigation infrastructure, mechanical harvesting, cold chain logistics. The industry has spent decades optimizing for transportability and shelf life, which are properties that benefit the supply chain, not the person eating the fruit. A strawberry bred for shelf life has a different flavor profile, a different nutritional density, and a different texture than a strawberry bred for taste. The research on this is consistent and has been consistent for decades. A 2017 study from the University of Florida's Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences measured sugar content, antioxidant concentration, and flavor compound profiles across commercial strawberry varieties versus traditional and wild varieties. The wild and traditional varieties outperformed commercial varieties on every nutritional metric by margins that were not small. They are just harder to ship, so the industry does not grow them. And the knowledge of what grows better, tastes better, and produces more reliably in the American landscape was not passed on to the people buying fruit at a grocery store every week. It was not in anyone's financial interest to pass it on. The plants that produce the best food are the ones that cannot be patented, cannot be controlled through proprietary seed agreements, and cannot be made dependent on the spray schedules and fertilizer programs that generate the secondary revenue streams the industry depends on. They just grow every year, in your corner, for free. What Harold grows in that corner is what indigenous communities across the northeastern and north-central United States have grown, tended, and eaten for thousands of years. 4 species, each one native to the region, each one adapted to the climate, the soil, and the pest pressure of the landscape without any chemical intervention. Each one producing more food per square foot per year than any apple tree you can plant in the same space. The first shrub is the elderberry, Sambucus canadensis, native across the eastern United States from the Atlantic coast to the Rocky Mountain foothills. Elderberry grows to between 5 and 12 feet tall, depending on the variety and the conditions. Produces clusters of small dark purple berries in late summer that are among the most antioxidant-dense fruits documented in the North American flora, and begins producing in its 2nd year from bare rootstock. An established elderberry in good conditions produces between 5 and 15 pounds of fruit per plant per year. For comparison, a standard semi-dwarf apple tree in its third year, the first year of meaningful production, typically yields 8 to 12 pounds. The elderberry matches or exceeds that yield from a fraction of the canopy footprint, beginning 1 year earlier, with no spray schedule and no pruning requirement beyond occasional renewal cutting that takes 20 minutes once every 3 to 4 years. A 2020 study published in the journal Molecules measured the antioxidant content of elderberry against 32 other commonly consumed fruits. Elderberry ranked in the top 3 for total antioxidant capacity, above blueberry, above pomegranate, and above every common commercial berry. It also contains significant concentrations of vitamin C and B6, potassium and iron. The same study noted that the antioxidant compounds in elderberry degrade rapidly after commercial processing, meaning the dried, juiced, and packaged elderberry products sold in health food stores for $25 a bottle contain a fraction of the nutritional value of fresh-picked fruit eaten the same day it was harvested. Harold picks his elderberries and eats them. The nutritional value he gets from that experience is not available for purchase at any price point. The second shrub is the serviceberry, Amelanchier species, known by dozens of regional names across North America: Juneberry in the Great Plains, Saskatoon in Canada, Shadbush in New England. Serviceberry is one of the earliest fruiting woody plants in any North American landscape, producing sweet, blueberry-sized fruit in late May and early June, 6 to 8 weeks before most other fruiting plants. Harold's serviceberry is the first thing that produces in his corner every year, and it produces abundantly. A mature serviceberry shrub yields between 3 and 8 pounds of fruit annually, beginning in the second or third year from bare rootstock. The fruit has a flavor that most people who taste it for the first time describe as a cross between a blueberry and an almond, mild, sweet, and complex in a way that no commercially available fruit quite replicates. Serviceberry was a staple food across dozens of North American indigenous cultures. The Lakota mixed dried serviceberries with rendered fat and dried meat to produce pemmican, a calorie-dense, shelf-stable food that fueled long journeys and sustained communities through winter. The nutritional profile supports the practice. Serviceberry is high in iron, calcium, and manganese, nutrients that complement the protein and fat profile of the meat it was traditionally combined with. A 2019 nutritional analysis from the University of Saskatchewan confirmed that fresh serviceberry contains iron concentrations comparable to cooked spinach and calcium concentrations higher than most commercial berries. It grows in your yard from a $12 bare root stick starting in year 2, and the industry has never found a way to make it shelf-stable enough to ship. So you have never been offered it. The third shrub is the highbush cranberry, Viburnum trilobum, not a true cranberry, despite the name, but a native viburnum that produces tart, bright red fruit in September and October that hangs on the shrub well into winter, providing food long after everything else has finished. Highbush cranberry is one of the most cold, hardy fruiting shrubs in the North American native plant palette, surviving winters to -40 degrees Fahrenheit without damage and producing reliably the following season. It grows to 8 to 12 feet in full sun, tolerates partial shade better than almost any other fruiting shrub, and requires no maintenance beyond the occasional removal of crossing branches. Fruit yield per mature plant runs between 4 and 10 pounds annually. The tart flavor of highbush cranberry is intense and requires some preparation, typically cooking with a sweetener, but the result is a product with the same culinary range as commercial cranberry sauce and a nutritional profile that a 2018 paper in the Journal of Food Composition and Analysis confirmed exceeds commercial cranberry in vitamin C concentration, total flavonoid content, and antioxidant activity. Indigenous communities across the Great Lakes region and the Northern Plains used highbush cranberry as a winter staple, dried, preserved in fat, and cooked into sauces that provided critical vitamin C through the months when no fresh food was available. The shrub that produced that vitamin C through a Minnesota winter is available from native plant nurseries for $8 to $15. Most people have never heard of it. The fourth shrub is the gooseberry, Shrubs species. Native gooseberry varieties are distributed across the entire continental United States. They produce tart, grape-sized fruit in midsummer July and August, filling the gap between the serviceberry's June production and the elderberry's August production. A mature gooseberry in good conditions yields 4 to 8 pounds of fruit annually from a shrub that tops out at 4 feet tall. Harold's gooseberry is the smallest plant in his corner and the easiest to harvest. You stand over it and pick. No ladder, no bent back, no reaching. Gooseberry was one of the most widely eaten fruits in pre-contact North America. Every woodland and forest edge culture that overlapped with its range documented it as a reliable, abundant, and nutritionally important food source. It is high in vitamin C, fiber, and potassium. A ripe native gooseberry eaten straight from the shrub is a completely different experience from the commercial gooseberry products occasionally available in specialty stores. Tart and complex and genuinely satisfying in a way that processed fruit products are not. The plant requires no spray schedule because native varieties have resistance to the fungal diseases that affect commercial varieties. The diseases that the commercial gooseberry industry used as a justification in the early 20th century to successfully lobby for a federal ban on gooseberry cultivation in most American states, a ban that was not fully lifted until 1966 and that some states maintained in modified form into the 1990s. The gooseberry was banned in America by the logging industry, which argued that native-rived species hosted white pine blister rust, a fungal disease that affected white pine timber trees. The ban protected timber revenue. It removed one of the most productive and nutritious native fruits from American yards for 60 years. Now here is exactly how to plant Harold's Corner in your own yard. You need a space approximately 12 feet wide and 8 feet deep that receives 6 hours of direct sun. A fence line works. The north side of a driveway works. The back corner of any residential lot works. You are planting 4 shrubs in a staggered arrangement that puts the tallest at the back, where they will not shade the smaller plants in front. The elderberry goes at the back center, largest mature size, 5 to 12 feet, most shade tolerant of what surrounds it. The high bush cranberry goes at the back corners, flanking the elderberry on both sides. The serviceberry goes mid-row, in front of and between the back 3. The gooseberry goes at the front, lowest growing at 4 feet, easiest access for harvest, and the first thing a child walking by will notice when the fruit sets in July. Purchase bare root stock from a native plant nursery. Mail order is fine and often less expensive than local nurseries for native species. Reputable suppliers include Prairie Moon Nursery, Edible Landscaping, and Coldstream Farm, all of which ship bare root stock nationally at the appropriate planting window for your region. Expect to pay between $8 and $20 per plant. Total investment for 4 plants is $30 to $80. Plant in early spring before bud break or in fall after leaf drop. Bare root stock planted at the right time establishes faster and more reliably than container stock planted in summer. Dig a hole wide enough to spread the roots fully without bending or circling them. Set the crown at soil level, not below it. Water deeply at planting and once a week for the first growing season. After establishment, these plants are drought tolerant and require no supplemental watering in most regions east of the 100th meridian and in irrigated western gardens. In year 1, let them establish. Remove any fruit that sets to direct the plant's energy into root development. In year 2, the serviceberry and gooseberry will produce modest amounts, enough to taste and understand what you have. By year 3, all 4 plants are producing meaningfully. By year 5, the corner Harold showed me is what you have. Something ripe from May through October. 0 spray, 0 fertilizer, 0 ongoing cost beyond the 20 minutes of renewal pruning every few years, and a nutritional density that no commercial supply chain has ever found a way to match, package, and sell at a price point that makes the supply chain worth maintaining. The 4 shrubs in Harold's Corner were not selected by accident or by instinct or by folklore. They were selected over thousands of years by the people who ate them, who observed which plants produced most reliably through the hardest seasons, which survived late frosts and came back the following year, which tasted best at different stages of ripeness and kept the community healthiest through the lean months of winter when nothing else was available. That selection process, conducted without a laboratory or a university grant or a peer-reviewed journal submission, produced a plant palette that nutritional researchers keep rediscovering. The papers keep noting the same things: exceptional antioxidant density, unusual mineral profiles, flavor compounds that commercial plant breeding has spent decades attempting to replicate and has never managed to match in a variety that also survives the supply chain. The elderberry, serviceberry, highbush cranberry, and gooseberry are not obscure curiosities. They are the food plants that fed the northeastern corner of this continent for thousands of years before the first apple orchard was planted by European settlers. They are still here. They are still growing in the margins of forests and along the edges of old farm fields. They are available from nurseries for less than the cost of a bag of groceries. And most of the people who could be growing them eating them, and sharing them with their neighbors have never been told they exist because the $28 billion commercial fruit industry has no mechanism for profiting from a plant that anyone can propagate, grow without inputs, and harvest without equipment. Harold picked a handful of service berries off the shrub and handed them to me. They were warm from the sun. He said nothing. He did not need to. The information was in the fruit. It has always been in the fruit. We just stopped being told where to find it. If this resonated with you, subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it. This knowledge belongs to all of us.